Thank you for joining us today, sir, on the occasion of World Health Day. On behalf of the entire team of My City Links, I'm Afreen Firdaus, and I welcome you to today's session. Sir, I totally know that you're a very busy person, and without any further ado, I would like to come straight to the questions. So, sir, tell me, so what is exactly a healthy heart?
A healthy heart is a heart which people have to maintain so that they do not have any disease in any form which affects the heart. For example, it is not necessarily that they should have a heart attack. It may be heart disease in the children, where it is called as congenital heart disease. It may be in the middle age, where it's called rheumatic heart disease, or in the elderly, or in the middle age group also, which is causes coronary artery disease. But predominantly we stress on World Heart Day to prevent coronary artery disease or heart attacks.
Okay, sir. So how can we maintain that? How can we maintain a healthy heart?
There are various steps to maintain a healthy heart. We should realize two important things: that heart disease is influenced by two major factors. One is the environmental factors and other is the genetic factors. Genetic factors are those which we inherit from our fathers or our elders or parents or next previous generation. So this passes off in generation. For example, diabetes is a hereditary disease, hypertension or blood pressure is a hereditary disease, having high cholesterol is a hereditary disease. Similarly, heart attacks are also to some extent hereditary. So this genetics we cannot change, but the environment which surrounds us, for example, environmental factors like stress, like for example, lack of exercise, like control of blood sugars, like control of blood pressure, stopping smoking, stopping taking alcohol, these all can be changed, and taking a proper diet. So these are the environmental factors which we can change so that we can get a healthy heart.
Right, sir. Sir, so on an average, how many patients do you get for heart-related reasons, and how many of them are completely severe?
At an average, say in my hospital, I get at least 3 to 4 cases of heart attack per day these days. But imagine if the whole city is having around, say, 7 to 8 of this high-end hospitals. So definitely there must be at least 20 to 30 heart attacks which is reaching from the peripheries or from our city itself.
Okay. Sir, so what are the different kinds of heart ailments?
The most common ailment that we come across are heart attacks. That is what we have seen. And usually it is affecting the younger population these days, and they usually present late. Now, there are various factors where the younger population is getting affected. It is basically because of the lifestyle that they maintain. They have a very bad lifestyle. They take a lot of junk food and fast food. They are usually mostly glued to the computers or the TV screens, and they hardly have any exercise or any, that is, physical exertion. And then they actually smoke a lot and also take alcohol and indulge in even certain drugs which are affecting the heart. This is a major chunk of heart patients that we get. In fact, the rest group of heart patients are those which have valvular heart diseases, which where the patients are usually from the lower socioeconomic class. They come with some valve problems, and then they also present. And the third group of patients are those which have a heart disease from birth, that which is we call as congenital heart disease. They come down with either a hole in the heart or a blue baby. But most of the patients that we come across are the heart attacks. And the last group of patients are the sequelae of these heart attacks, where the patients are not treated properly in time, where they form a weakness of the heart, which we call as cardiomyopathies. This is known as where the heart dilates, becomes big, and the heart function starts decreasing. As a result, the patient becomes very breathless, is not able to sleep properly, what we call as heart failure. These are the heart failure patients.
Okay. So, sir, talking about exercise, we have even heard of people who have had a heart attack while exercising as well. So, why
Yes,
is it?
yes, it is. What happens exactly? Uh, the blood that flows in the coronary arteries, that is the blood supplies that supplies the heart. Inside it, the fat starts getting deposited if you have a bad lifestyle. So, supposing if you are under any stress, whatever it may be, even if you do over exercise, this fat ruptures and the full fat particles they come into the bloodstream and they choke the heart, as a result of which the heart attacks takes place. Many times we've seen that young people get heart attacks after they smoke, when they are under stress. For example, if there's a loss in the family, or they have some stress of the job, or they've lost their job, or supposing they've lost one of the loved and near ones, or even heavy exercise can also precipitate a heart attack.
Okay, sir. Sir, what are the indications that can tell us that a person is prone to heart attack? It is going to come quite soon.
Now, there are certain signs which you have to, which you call the telltale signs, which will make you careful that possibly a heart attack is coming. First of all, if you're a diabetic and you have hypertension, means high blood pressure, and have high cholesterol, then you should consider yourself being in the high risk group. Now, supposing such patients start developing very easy fatigability, that is, once they start walking for a certain distance, they start feeling that they're feeling breathless, they're not able to, they feel some heaviness in the heart, or they get a chest pain which radiates to the arms, to the back, to the neck, or if there's profuse sweating, or there is head drilling. All these are signs which tells you that possibly you're getting a heart attack. Another sign which is very commonly people complain of is that I am having some gas. So these gas
Yeah.
problems, especially in the diabetics and those who have families to have heart attacks, should be taken with a pinch of salt, because these may be patients of heart attack which are just presenting as gas, and they stay overnight without seeking medical attention, and then finally land up in the hospital with more problems.
Sir, we have even heard like if we get very angry, a person can get heart attack, or if the person is scared all of a sudden. So how
Yes,
far is it true?
is what happens exactly when you get angry, or when you get scared, or when you are this thing that is means somehow you are very disturbed. What usually happens, your sympathetic nervous system comes into play, your heart rate starts increasing, and when your heart rate starts increasing, the this fatty plaque which is inside the coronary artery, it becomes unstable, and as a result it ruptures and the patient gets a heart attack. So one of the major things that we stress is that do not try to put yourself on stress. The stress is a major factor which causes heart attacks, and it has been seen that even one has a loss of the spouse or the loss of the parents, this also has a big toll on the individual to get heart attacks.
Okay, sir. Sir, is it advisable to take sorbitrate? We have heard that taking sorbitrate when someone is experiencing an heart attack is fine. So how far, like non-health professionals, can they administer it?
Yes. Now, the first thing that you should do is, if you have a heart attack, first try to call up a person whom you know who can drive you to the hospital. That's the first thing. Second thing is, don't wait for the hospital to send you an ambulance, because you take twice the time. The ambulance has to reach you, and again you have to go to the hospital. So it takes time. The ambulance may not be able to locate your house that easily. So first catch hold of a friend who can reach you to the hospital. The first thing that you should do is try to sit down in an aerated room, or under a fan, or in an AC room, so that if you're sweating, the sweat comes down. Try to take rest, stop all your activities. And the first tablet that you should take is a plain aspirin, which is available at Dispirin, soluble Dispirin, to be dissolved in half a glass of water and has to be drunk. And still then, if you feel that you're having pain, typical pain, which is suggestive of a heart attack, like retrosternal or the central chest pain radiating to the neck, of course, you can take 5 milligram of sorbitrate, which is, sorbitrate is a trade name, but we call it as basically a nitrate compound. This nitrate compound can be taken, or nitroglycerin, what we call it, It is the same nitroglycerin which was first used in the dynamites. The same nitroglycerin is given under the tongue and the patient gets relief. Now, sometimes you may get relief after taking a tablet of sorbitate. Still then don't think that it is you have got relief. You have to seek attention, get an ECG done, and try to get some blood test done to detect that you have a heart attack. Now, if your first tablet of sorbitate does not give you relief, take it at 5 minutes interval, go to 3 tablets maximum. And within 3 tablets, if you don't get relief, you're 100% having a heart attack. So you should seek attention as fast as possible.
Sir, over the past few years, do you think heart attacks have increased?
Yes, heart attacks have exponentially increased. It is basically because of our stressful life, our lifestyle practices, and especially in the time of COVID. It is COVID time from 2019 to 21. Most of the people have been under stress. They are inside the house, they work from the house, many have lost their jobs. So it is not that heart attacks have decreased in COVID times. It has, in fact, there has been a higher incidence of heart attacks. But the problem is that patients don't come to hospital, they don't seek attention, thinking that possibly if I go to the hospital, I'll get COVID. They should realize that there are dedicated COVID hospitals. There are hospitals which keep COVID patients in one wing, and in the other wing, they keep the normal patients. These all patients who reach the hospital are properly screened. They undergo the COVID RT-PCR or the rapid antigen test, and then they're triaged into which wing they will go. So people should not, even if they have chest pain, they should not sit at home. They should reach hospital and they should try to seek attention. COVID has a bidirectional relationship with heart attacks. Now, patients with COVID are more prone to have heart attacks. Why? Because COVID causes more blood coagulation. It tries to clot your blood. And when it clots your blood inside the heart, you get a heart attack. So if patients do not take early treatment for COVID, also the proper treatment, they're prone to heart attacks. The last thing that I'll say is that patients who are discharged after being cured from COVID have to take utmost care, because the first 3 months post-discharge is the most vulnerable period where they can have heart attacks or they can have pulmonary embolism. So COVID has a bidirectional relationship. It can cause heart attacks. And because of COVID, people do not come to the hospital even if they heart attacks. That is why many people die in the house and people label it as a COVID death. But that is not the story.
Right, sir. Sir, talking about gas-related chest pain and when you're having a heart attack. So how can we differentiate? Like young people nowadays, they too are having heart attacks. So they usually take it as, we are very young, how can we have that? So they take it as gas. So how can we differentiate that?
Normally, as cardiologists, we do not differentiate anything between gas or a heart attack. It is better to overdiagnose rather than underdiagnose. Most of the younger generation, what they think, I've taken a very fast food, I have some gas, etc., and they take it very lightly. Now, typically what happens when you have gas symptoms, it is something below just above the umbilicus, you'll have some pain. But in heart attack, you typically get it in the retrosternal or just behind the chest, you get it. Now, even if you have acidity also, it will seem as if you're getting the similar pain. But heart attack has got more symptoms, especially if you're a diabetic, your blood pressure, your cholesterols are abnormal, you have a family history, and still then if you're feeling that you have a gas-like symptom, please do not ignore it, because it may not be gas. A specific type of heart attack known as inferior wall heart attacks, these usually present like gas-like symptoms. And one has to be very careful, because this patient can present with vomiting, can present with heartburn, can present with gas-like symptoms, but ultimately it is actually a heart attack, which can be very easily diagnosed if you just do an ECG and some blood tests.
Okay, sir. Sir, how far are children and teenagers prone to it?
Now, we are seeing more of heart attacks between the age of, say, 20 to 35 to 40. The reason is that most of our population between 20 to 35, even I have done angioplasties or have operated patients on who are just 25, 22 years. The reason is very simple. Number one, they are under a lot of stress. What is the stress? The stress of competition is very high. They have to get a job somewhere. They have to go and they have to see that they get a seat in some professional course. So I have seen young patients, those who are even preparing for the NEET exams or the engineering exams, coming with heart attacks. Or even chartered accountants who are under, very young chartered accountants who are under the stress of this yearly close ending, this thing, they're all under stress. Number two, the need that they want to rise very high, very fast, what you call as a financial stability, that also causes a lot of stress in this teenagers. Thirdly, if you see on their dietary habits, they try to take a lot of junk foods, and you will see among the colleges, you see just outside, as you step down out of the college, you'll see a lot of junk food stalls and hotels are there, but this is bargain because it's very easily available and it's very tasty to take, and they indulge in those habits. Lastly, they smoke, they take alcohol, and moreover, they do not exercise. And most of the time, they are either in a film hall taking very all these chatpata foods and everything. And this because of lack of exercise, the diet, the smoking, the alcohol. So our younger generation, we are seeing a drift of heart attacks from the late 60s or mid 50s to now between 30 to 40 or even less than that.
Okay, sir. So do you think gender plays an important role in heart illness?
Yes, gender does play an important role. The male gender is more prone to heart attacks, but the whole problem is that female gender is not immune to it. Now, what basically happens, our Indian ladies, they usually try to ignore symptoms. Even our mothers or our sisters, they just try to set aside the symptoms, telling that, oh, it's some gas, but they don't seek medical attention. And we as a community have a general feeling in our society, the females are neglected. When they complain of any pain, oh, it's just some gas, I just leave it like that. Next, what happens after a lady attends menopause, that is her menstrual cycle stops, she has the same risk of heart attack as a male of her age. So all these estrogen, all these hormones, they protect the lady to a certain extent, but after the age of say 50 or 55, they have an equal risk of heart attacks. Now, why female incidence is so lower? Because they don't seek medical attention, they ignore their symptoms, but believe me, the chances and the incidence of heart attacks are equally high in ladies compared to gents also. Moreover, nowadays we have seen more ladies or more gents in the higher class societies, etc., and even in the rural areas also, they smoke BDs and cigarettes. Their nutrition is not proper. So all this also contribute to heart attacks in ladies also.
Okay, sir. So at what age should we start visiting a cardiologist, and how often should we visit one?
See, basically, we tell that you need not visit the cardiologist at an early age. At the age of 20 or 25, if you have a family history then of heart attacks, or you have family history of diabetes or blood pressure, try to check your this thing, that is lipids, blood sugars, your blood pressure at least twice or once a year. Once you cross 40, it should be an annual program that you should do. You should get a heart checkup done. What do I mean by a heart checkup? You should do your basic blood tests of lipids, that is your cholesterol, your blood sugars, your blood pressure, and get a TMT done if you fall in the high risk group, and also an echo to see how your heart function is. But basically, once one crosses 40, you have to do a heart checkup every yearly once. And this is what we call as the health checkups that we advise to all the office goers or all the software personnel or all the doctors who are more than 40, but they're all stressed up and they work for night together, some computers, they're overworked. So they hardly know what's going on in their body and what is the health like. So they have to, after 40, you have to get an annual checkup done. And it is not necessarily that you have to visit a cardiologist, you can visit a physician. And if they find anything abnormal, they'll definitely refer you to the cardiologist. Because the main reason is that cardiologists are not available in every places. So don't think that because cardiologists are not available, so you need not go for a checkup. There are organizations who go to your house, they take your blood, they do your checkups, and they only tell you that your tests are abnormal. It's time that you visit a physician or a cardiologist.
Sir, you visit different patients every day. You deal with them. So, what are the major, tell me some of the misconceptions that people have towards heart and heart disease.
See, some of the first misconceptions are that I never had a heart attack in my family. Why will I get a heart attack? There's a first major misconception. The next major misconception is that this is just a simple gas. I just want to pass it off, nothing. Or thirdly is that maybe it is something I've overeaten today. I'm not feeling well. It's okay. Tomorrow I'll consult the physician. So these are the major misconceptions that people have. The sense of denial that I have a heart attack is maximum among the educated population, and more so among the doctors, the physicians. They try to negate the symptoms. We've seen doctors who have had heart attacks and they think, well, no, we'll rest throughout the night. Tomorrow morning we'll go. Then even if they have a friend who is a cardiologist or who know that they can get cardiology help, they think that why should I disturb a cardiologist at night? Or why should I go to the hospital at night? And there is something what you call as the concept that they feel that if I go to the hospital, they do a lot of unnecessary tests which may not be required. I'll be drained of my money. Why should I go for such a simple ailment? And as a result, they subdue their symptoms and finally they land up with more problems. Self-denial, denial that it is not a heart attack. And why me? Because I don't have anything, no history in my family. Why should I heart attack? I lead a healthy life. I'm jogging daily. I'm doing exercise daily. I'm on a healthy diet. But even if you're on a healthy diet, even if you have chest pain, don't think that you cannot have a heart attack. You might be having a heart attack. You should seek attention. There's no harm in doing an ECG and a blood test. And if it is not, you're lucky. Just go back home and sleep peacefully.
So, sir, if a person has heart attack, so does it mean that they are very close to death or they are going to die? Is it such
No, we consider something as the golden hour. What is the golden hour? Is that if you can reach hospital within the first 1 hour, then you can save maximum amount of your heart muscles. Now, the heart muscles are something which after 1 hour, gradually the heart muscle dies. Once the heart muscle dies, it is not easy to recover it. If the patient comes with at a golden hour, then we can give certain drugs which are known as thrombolytics, which can dissolve the clot. Or if the hospital has got a cardiac catheterization lab, they can be taken up and undergo an angioplasty. Now this lasts for maximum 6 hours. After 6 hours, whatever amount of effort you take, you cannot get back your heart to normal. So that is why we tell that you should reach the hospital as early as possible. That is what we tell is the door to needle time. That means from your door, when you leave the hospital, the first prick that you get in the hospital for the medication is the door to needle time. This door to needle time should be as low as 30 to 45 minutes. Then we have something what we call as the door to balloon time. Now, what is the door to balloon time? That is once the patient starts from the house and reaches the hospital, is taken to the operation at the catheterization lab, and the balloon is passed and the block is opened, that we call it the door to balloon time. And with the newer systems of telemedicine and all, we have been able to reduce it to as low as possible. And if the patient reaches within 6 hours, there's nothing like it. We can get back the normal heart once again.
Okay. So, sir, what is a stent exactly and how does it work?
Now, what exactly is a stent? A stent is basically a metal coil. Now, it is loaded on this thing that is balloon. So if a patient has a block, if the block is more than 70%, he or she is a candidate for a stenting. Of course, if it is one of the major arteries. Now, what we do, we first clean the pathway with a plain balloon. Then we put a stent. The stent works as a scaffold so that the blood vessel doesn't again collapse. So basically, it is like a scaffold which holds the artery so that the blood flow takes place. Nowadays, we are on the 4th generation of stents. We are using drug-eluting stents. These are very user-friendly and the risks are very low. And it has been seen the long-term results are good. Dissolvable stents are what we call as the scaffolds. The biovascular scaffolds have come into the market. And it is a very good news that one of the major dissolvable stents come from the Indian market. And they are the suppliers worldwide. The first generation dissolvable stents which came from US was not a success. Now the present generations, dissolvable stents are very good, and we usually advise our younger population to take the stents so that within 3 years the whole artery, the stent gets dissolved. There's nothing inside the heart. So it is a revolutionary change in the treatment of heart attacks.
Okay. Sir, how easy or how difficult is it to get a heart transplant?
It is pretty difficult to get a heart transplant. The reason is that it is not the question of finance. It is most important is a donor. Now, most of the hospitals have a heart failure clinic where you maintain a register, where you maintain a register who will come. It is a rule of the government that you have to be on the donors, you have to be on the recipients list. Now, who are the recipients? Recipients are those patients who die due to some head injury or due to some other diseases not involving the heart. Number two, road traffic accident patients. Supposing there is a road traffic accident, the patient is brain dead, then the heart is taken and is transported to another city or in the same city which can do a cardiac transplant. And the patient who is on the list is asked to come immediately and the cardiac transplant is done. So getting a donor is very difficult. But the problem is that the concept of heart donation is not being promoted a lot. For example, the concept of donation of hearts, kidneys, eyes, liver should be promoted. Because after the person is brain dead, all these organs are burnt along with it, along with the body. So why should they be burnt? It can give a new life to another person. So the awareness should be there that you can donate a part of, you can donate your liver, you can donate your kidneys, you can donate your eyes, you can donate your heart, and you can save many lives. So this is what has to be propagated and has to be advocated through the telehealth, telemedicine, through the media, so that people are aware that no, even if one of my relatives die, if they donate the heart, it is a big boon to someone who will survive with it.
So just like blood group, does heart also need to match the recipient and the donor's heart need to be matched?
The beauty of heart donation is that you don't match the blood groups. That is the only thing that is the where you don't do a matching. Any person can give a heart to anyone. There's some simple matching has to be done, unlike the kidney transplant, the liver transplant, and all these things. The heart is something which is a little bit, the transplant principles are a little bit. Only thing is to get a heart. Now, to get a heart, people usually are very little bit reluctant. They don't donate the hearts. And moreover, if you say the donor heart, they don't cut the full heart and they take. They just take a portion of the heart and they put this heart on the recipient's heart. It is exactly like a piggyback. On one heart, you put another heart, and this part of the donor heart starts functioning with the recipient heart. So it is basically that the damaged portion is taken out and the donor heart is just implanted on it, not the full heart. A part of the heart is implanted, and it is like a piggyback operation. That is, on one person, another person is sitting down. So it is the donor heart which is put on the recipient heart, and both hearts start functioning together. So this is a very complex procedure, but I am happy to say India is picking up in heart donation, and most of the major metros have started. And in fact, I won't be surprised that within the next 4 to 5 years, I think we'll have heart donation starting in heart transplantation starting in our centers, because we have already started kidney transplant, liver transplants, skin transplants, all eye transplants, all have started. Only we are lacking because the awareness is not there. We have the manpower, we have the technical know-how, but we do not have the awareness. That's the whole thing.
So does that mean that one person can donate his heart to more than one person?
No. One person can donate the heart to only one person. That's it.
So no, you said part of the heart goes to a person.
We usually a part of the donor's heart is taken. We don't take the full heart. The part of the heart is taken, and it is not that the recipient's heart is totally taken out, thrown out, and this is fixed. It is not like fixing a hose pipe like that. So it is that some parts are taken, a part of usually the ventricles are taken and they are fixed up. That's the whole thing. The ventricles are the portion which are damaged, and so now some portion of the blood vessels are also transplanted. That's the whole thing.
So, sir, please tell me what are some of the good foods that we can eat, we can consume to keep our heart healthy?
The basic good food is that take a lot of fruits, take a lot of vegetables, avoid fatty foods. And next is that among the non-veg foods, take as much of fish as you can, avoid red meat, avoid your prawns and crabs, and be particular about the oil you use in your cooking. There are various oils that have entered the market. Be sure that you're taking the best oil. Among all the heart-friendly oils, rice bran oil is the best oil, or the good old oils that our grandmothers used to use, the groundnut oil or the mustard oil, they're good. Don't use this oil, this saffloras and all this sunflower oil, all this, these are dangerous for the heart because the omega-6, omega-3 composition is not adequate in the proper manner. In fact, you'll see, if you try to see last 25 years after these vegetable oils have entered the market, the incidence of heart attacks have increased. Our grandmothers and grandfathers never used to have these heart attacks because they used to take pure ghee, they used to take groundnut oil, they used to take mustard oil. But of course, ghee is not good for the heart. Only thing is that ghee has got a lot of antioxidants, which is helpful for the heart. Fish is one very good thing. Whether the larger the fish, sea fish, they're all good for the heart. It is not that you have to take small size fish. You can take fish daily, 2 portions, 3 portions. Take a lot of fruits. Take a lot of nuts. This thing, not ground nuts. Take all these. That is your other types of nuts you take, and take a lot of vegetables. That is most important. Sprouted this thing grains. They're good for the heart.
Other than food, what else can we do to keep our heart healthy?
Do not smoke. Don't take alcohol. Try to take the weekend off. Vent your anger on anyone whom you want to. Talk your problems with your friends. Don't keep it confined to yourself. Spend time with the family and discuss your problems with the family. And lastly, and most importantly, is that always go for your checkups regularly. Take less sugar, take less salt, and don't get addicted to something which is not good. That's it.
Sir, in the field of neurosurgery, what is the advancement that you're really excited about? Is there anything new as such?
See, nowadays, there have been a lot of advances in the drugs that we are getting. Now, for example, we have started getting drugs which can prevent heart failure, because we were worried, because once a patient used to have heart failure, we used to tell that, no, you have to have a heart transplant, or you have to fix up a pacemaker, which is costing around 8 to 9 lakhs, or a heart transplant costs you around 24, 25 lakhs. So now newer drugs are coming up in the market. There are very good drugs which can decrease your cholesterol. There are good drugs which can also, anti-aging drugs have started coming. And so that has been revolutionized in the pharmacotherapy or the medicinal aspects. Secondly, the surgeries have become more simpler. Nowadays, for example, you see, even if I tell you one of our leading cricketers, you see, he was physically so, he used to have, physically, he was so fit and he was idolized, and he used to promote certain oils. And you see that gentleman had a heart attack. The reason is that his father had a bypass surgery at the age of 40 years. So there was a strong family history. His brother had an angioplasty just before he had. So there is a very instances. Try to get back. It is exactly like as we inherit property, we inherit disease. So the more richer you are, more rich you'll become. So the more disease your parents had, that much of disease you will have. So you can change your environment. You cannot change your genes. That has to go on with you. So that is why you have to take care of the environment, most important. Now we tell that sitting is the new smoking. What I mean by that supposing you sit for more than 2 to 3 hours, it is equivalent to smoking 1 cigarette. So we tell that if you are doing an office job, especially those who work in front of computers, or like you all people who are reporting daily in front of this thing, doing jobs in front of the computers, every half an hour or 1 hour, please go take a stroll, come back and then sit down. Just don't keep sitting there for hours together. So sitting is the new smoking. That is what is the slogan that is being told, especially for diabetics, for those who for those who don't do any work, those physically inactive. So the best thing that we do is after every hour, if you are in one of the major posts, if you're a boss, go around, see what your subordinates are doing, just to go around, They also feel that something, yes, the boss is roaming about, so they have to be a little bit careful about what they're doing. They don't do chit chat. Get up from your seat, have a glass of water, and see how things are moving around. Go outside, watch it in front of the window, see the scenery outside, come back, walk around the floor. Never take the lift. Always walk up the staircase, walk down the staircase. Never take a car. If it is nearby to the market, you just go walking, come down walking. And these are certain simple things that you can do which will protect your heart.
Okay, sir. So, sir, lastly, I have a very important personal question. So, if you steal someone's heart, does it mean that you get cardiac arrested?
If you
steal someone's heart, does it mean that you get cardiac arrested?
cardiac arrested in technical term means the heart has stopped.
Yeah.
So again, to restart that heart, we have to either we basically give what you call a defibrillation, which gives shocks. You will see wherever you'll go in the flights, in the malls, you'll see an instrument known as AED, means automatic electrical defibrillators. Supposing the patient, an individual falls down, gets a cardiac arrest, the first thing that you have to do is to give a shock. A very bright example is one of our ex-presidents was giving this thing. Dr. Kalam was giving a talk in Shillong, in IIM Shillong. Suddenly had a heart attack. Can you imagine? Had a cardiac arrest. There was no defibrillator found there. So you can see people have to educated about this. Even you see the air hostesses are educated how to give a shock and how to revive the heart, how to do CPR and how it is to be done. So cardiac arrest is a big problem, and most of the patients we have seen who had a heart attack, it is in home. So you have to teach your family members, you have to teach the community members as a whole how to identify a heart and how to seek medical attention. You have to have the phone numbers, you have to know which is the nearest hospital to reach, you have to reach to the casualty, give them a call, I'm bringing a cardiac arrest patient, let the team be ready so that the emergency people attend you fast. That is very important. But here I'd like to tell about the theme of this year's World Heart Day, that is connect, use your heart to connect hearts. Now, what we are telling, why you are telling this year the theme is because 2019, 20, 21 has seen the COVID pandemic. People are not able to reach their cardiologists or not able to reach their physicians. So the concept is we have to promote what we call as telemedicine, telehealth, or your through virtual mode. You have to try to discuss your complaints with the cardiologist and try to see that we can reach the remotest area. Now an ECG is available in the remotest of area. An ECG can be done and can be sent through WhatsApp also, and you can give a diagnosis. So the basic stress is on giving telehealth and telemedicine a boost. And you will know that our Prime Minister just 2 days back gave a full this thing that is mission. He has got the what we call as the Digital India mission he started, and he's bringing health to it. He's giving everyone a health card which will contain all the health details, everything. And in one go, when you put it, your doctor can know what is your health, what medicines you're taking, and how many years your blood pressure, etc. Everything. These are the concepts which are followed in the US, and I think we are slowly picking up. And telemedicine has to come, and telehealth has to come in a big way, not only for heart patients, for all types of patients, it has to come. So the stress is use your heart to connect with other hearts who need help, who the underprivileged. You see, the COVID pandemic has shown us that there are so many underprivileged patients. The lockdown has shown us that people are not able to reach help. So how to reach help to them? Because once they used to come on the roads, the police used to chase them and they used to go home. If it is an elderly person, there used to no one in the home. Most of the people are in US, son is in US, daughter is in UK, some other son is in Australia. We get calls that my father and mother are alone at home, what do I do? So telemedicine has to be taught, and people have the telephones are the best methods to use. Apps are available where you can know what is your blood pressure, what is your pulse rate, etc. If there's any problem, talk with the doctor, discuss with them. And if you're feeling down, discuss with the doctor. There is self-help groups. There are psychiatrists who are giving you help. The diabetics now that they totally give their advice on this thing, telephones. So So it is very easy now. So to promote this, we have to bring the concept of internet, which should reach each and every corner of the country.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for being there with us. It was a great pleasure knowing about the heart from you. I'm sure all our viewers have been like, they might be always wanting to ask these questions to someone, and now they have the answers. Thank you so much, sir. We are really fortunate to have you, one of the best cardiologists of Odisha. Thank you. On behalf of MyCityLinks, once again, I thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you. Thanks a lot.